All right, we are going to go over Module 5 quadratic functions homework. So based on the emails I got and looking over the problem sets and what I thought would be confusing, I have picked a few problems. Now I'm not going to do the exact problems from your homework, but they are extremely similar. Okay, so we're going to start with question 1. Solve by the quadratic formula. And then entering it in. So I did change this problem just slightly from the one that was requested. So the first thing I do for quadratic formula is I write A, B, C, and I write the quadratic formula. X equals opposite of B plus or minus the square root of B squared minus 4AC all over 2A. And then I substitute in the values. The opposite of B is -9 plus or minus the square root. Make sure you draw a really big square root of B squared. So 9 squared minus 4 times A times C all over 2A. So now I am going to type this into my calculator without the square root. So I'm typing in 9 squared minus 4, parenthesis minus 9, parenthesis negative 2. And I get the value 9. So when I come back out, I've got x equals -9 plus or minus the square root of 9 all over -18. So the square root of 9 is 3. So I know it's -9 plus or minus 3 all over -18. And then I'm going to get two different answers here. I'm going to get -9 plus 3 over -18, or I'm going to get -9 minus 3 over -18. So that's going to give me, doing the top first, -6, -18. When I type that in my calculator, I get a decimal. So make sure you turn it back into a fraction, and you get a positive 1/3. And then for this one, we're going to get -12 over -18. When we type that into our calculator, we're also going to get a decimal. We want to make sure we write that as 2/3. So when I'm typing this in, I'm going to follow this instruction here, where I'm going to type 1/3, 2/3, and then I'm going to hit submit. All right, we're going to move on to question number 5. Now I did change the graph from the one that you guys were being asked. Let me just make sure here that I've got the whole problem in. Okay, great. So just because this one can be a little bit confusing, you're working with a quadratic equation and construct the following graph. Identify the vertex. Remember that it's a point. What they're saying is your answer needs to have parentheses and a comma. So the vertex is right here. In this graph, the vertex is the vertex is x value is +1 and the y value is -4. Identify the y-intercept of the parabola. That's the point that it's crossing the y-axis. Remember, it's a point. So the x value is 0, the y value is -3. Identify the x-intercepts. Those are the points where it hits the x-axis. So this first x-intercept is parenthesis -1, 0, and this one is 3, 0. If you're getting it wrong, it's because you're probably not doing parentheses. Write an equation for the axis of symmetry. If you're getting this wrong, it's probably because you're just putting a number and not an equation. The equation for the axis of symmetry is always x equals, and then the number that the x-axis would kind of rotate around, or the vertex would rotate around. So in this case, it would be x equals +1. So that's how you're going to do number 5. Got 3 more examples here. Number 6. Fill in the info below and graph on your own paper. Then graph the parabola on the axis below by first clicking on the vertex, then on another point close to the vertex that fits on the axis. You may not be able to click on an x or y intercept. So state whether the parabola opens up or down. That has to do with that point right there, that negative or positive. So because it's negative, I know that it's going down. State the vertex as an ordered pair. To find the vertex in a standard form equation, I need to use the formula x equals the opposite of b over 2a. And that's actually going to get me the axis of symmetry, but I'll use that to get the vertex. So I'm going to label this A, B, C. So the opposite of b would be a +2. 2 times a, negative 1. So I'm actually going to get x equals negative 1. That's the axis of symmetry. Notice that they bolded the word equation. If you're just putting negative 1, it is going to be marked as wrong. And then you're going to substitute that into this equation. So we want to find the y value. So y equals negative 1 squared minus 2 times negative 1 plus 3. And I'm just going to type all that into my calculator really, really carefully. Don't forget those parentheses. And I get the y value is 4. So that means the vertex is negative 1, positive 4. State the y-intercept as an ordered pair. Remember, in standard form, it's easy to get the y-intercept because that's when x equals 0. So when I plug in 0, this all goes away, and I'm left with 3. Now, they said an ordered pair, so it's 0, 3. And then to actually graph it, it says to click on the vertex. So the vertex would be negative 1, positive 4, and then another point on the parabola. So we've got 0, 3, and then you could probably just kind of graph whatever they give you from there. We're going to do 2 more. So factor the trinomial by writing it as a product of 2 binomials. The reason I'm picking this one is because of the directions. You're to write your answer as a product of 2 binomials, which means in this space here, you're going to have 2 binomials multiplied, and that can be a little bit confusing. So we're going to factor this. We know that it is a trinomial. The leading coefficient is 1. And so we're going to say, okay, what multiplies to positive 4, but adds to negative 5? So what multiplies to 4? We've got 1 and 4, 2 and 2. And then we've got the negative version, negative 1 and negative 4, negative 2 and negative 2. So which of these adds to negative 5? That's 5, that's 4. Boom, right there, negative 1 plus negative 4. So now how do I write my answer? So this is x minus 1, x minus 4. This is the product of the binomials. They didn't want me to solve it. They wanted the product of 2 binomials. So that is what is actually going to go into that solution box, which is different from number 19. That's why I'm doing both of these. It says solve the equation by factoring. So we're actually going to get a solution. We're going to take the factor and go even further. So we've got m squared minus 2m minus 3. Trinomial, leading coefficient of 1. Let's see if we can multiply to negative 3, but add to negative 2. So what multiplies to negative 3? So that's 1 times positive 3 or 1 times negative 3. So which of these adds? This gives me a positive 2. This gives me a negative 2. So that is my pair. So when I factor this, I get m plus 1, m minus 3. But then when I go to solve it, I set each factor equal to 0. And so I get m equals negative 1. And here I get m equals positive 3. So that's what's going on the line here, negative 1 comma positive 3. So that can be why those 2 problems would be a little bit confusing, is understanding how to write your answers. All the other problems in this problem set are answered through the lecture video, so make sure you have a chance to go through those and email me if you have any questions.